We've been talking about Commanders training camp. The topic at hand, Brandon Coleman, the rookie offensive lineman, and the state of that O line. He's an X factor. Who else on this team would you consider as capable of him as changing the sight line if he can max out and maybe overachieve in 2024? Vic's and Akakik on Grant and Danny. What's up, Vic? How are you?
What's up, guys?
Hey, buddy.
The biggest X factor for me, and I hate to sound redundant, is Brandon Coleman. If Brandon Coleman can set the edge, if Brandon Coleman can create a wall for Jaden Daniels, if Brandon Coleman can help him achieve 3-snap, if he can help him achieve play action, if he can help him keep his jersey clean, if he can set the edge for outside zone, all those things that all left tackles have to do, we will be good. That's the bottom line. If Brandon Coleman cannot, even if our defense is good or solid, we will be still considered bad because Jaden Daniels will not be able to be successful, period.
But I don't know if he'll be unsuccessful, Vic. Thanks for the call. But his floor lowers. And I think he's just way more inconsistent at that point. Because he's going to be taking shots. You start feeling those ghosts.
Yeah, and the ceiling lowers too, because it's like you can't get away with certain play calls. You can't do the thing where you got a long developing play and a double fake on double move and try to exploit stuff if you don't trust a guy to hold up in pass pro.
I'll give you a short list number 2 option for me on the X Factor list that I would add to Brandon Coleman, and that's Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, to me, those are guys that are 1 and 2 probably.
Jahan Dotson has got to get back to looking like a legitimate starting wide receiver. It wasn't there last year. As much as he played 16 starts rather, played in all 17 games, to go out and have sub 50 catches and be fewer yards from 523 as a rookie to 518, the ultimate disappointment of a year. It was good to see him today putting in work. I mean, he was crisp in his route running, one-on-one. Now, again, one-on-one is the wide receiver should cook DBs. He should absolutely win because those guys, it's not really authentic truly to how you play a game. You can't use the boundary. You're not playing within a scheme. You're not going to have help. A bunch of other reasons why the drill is set up for the receiver. But you could just see the way he sinks his hips and moves, and everything is kind of for him, like it's just fluid.
Looks natural.
And I would still say, I'd be curious. I might have to run this by some people out there if I'm out there again this week. I still think he's their best route runner. Now that in $5 won't get you a whole lot, but if Jahan Dotson can go catch 65 balls for 750 yards this year, knowing McLaurin's going to go 70 for 1,000, now all of a sudden you feel like they got a pretty good offense and Jaden Daniels going to have a hell of a year.
Yeah, so you're looking to replace the Curtis Samuel production plus elevated production from Dotson, who was 4th on the team in catches last year behind Logan Thomas, and had right about the same yardage totals again as Logan Thomas, who was not terribly dynamic. So if you replace Samuel with Dotson, now you're looking for somebody else to kind of step into that void. You get increased production from the running back spot. Gibson's share is going to go to Eckler, and maybe then some, right? So you're trying to figure out where some of these the mouths to be fed, where the balls are going to go. Dotson to me is the 1A here, right? Because they didn't do much in free agency, didn't do much in the draft in this regard. Again, McCaffrey is their highest touted or highest drafted pick as a skill player on offense. But I think Dotson's renaissance or him being good, not just, hey, he's better, he's taking an incremental step forward. That's not good enough, frankly, for this unit, for this group. But if he's bona fide good, if he's a real number 2 receiver in the NFL, then they're right. And this offense, it means Jaden Daniels is, spreading the ball around. It means they're moving the football. It means they're getting first downs and probably scoring some points.
How much do you care? And I don't mean specifically you, Danny, although I want to get your thoughts, but you guys out there as well, about the lack of size at wide receiver, about how redundant it seems like some of the body styles are. Because I've never really concerned myself much with like piecing together a wide receiver room where, all right, I've got a couple 6-foot guys. Now I need my 6'3" red zone threat who can go up the ladder and score touchdowns. The one guy with any real size that they brought in was Luke McCaffrey, who's 6'1.5", rounded up to 6'2". And he's the only 6'2" wide receiver who might be on this roster. But if you look at it, Terry McLaurin is 6 foot, 200 pounds. Jahan Dotson is listed 5'11, 182, and I'll bet it's 5'10 and change. Alameda Zacchaeus is 5'8".
Yeah.
Now he weighs 193 pounds. I mean, he's sturdier and bigger and stronger and thicker than, say, Dotson's frame, a little more diminutive. De'Ami Brown is 6 foot and change, maybe 6'1 and 195. So McCaffrey at 6'2", maybe one of the reasons why they liked him was his size. There were a couple of guys at training camp. Like I liked what I saw today from a roster hopeful named Bryson Tremaine. He was there last year at camp as well. He's from Stanford, kind of deep down the board wide receiver. He's 6'4", 215. And on a team like this, maybe there's more value in just having a guy like that be your seventh wideout who's deactivated than there would be in other places. But you look around the league, there's size at wide receiver everywhere. And most of their guys are still 5'11", 6 foot.
Yeah, if I was to draw up kind of an ideal, I would have a bigger receiver or two, right? I mean, I just would. Just give my preference. I like having a nice little mix.
I didn't mention Crowder, who's probably going to be on the team.
Yeah, he's 5'9", 5'10". Yeah.
He's 5'8" and change.
Yeah, I mean, so I would love that. I would love a bigger target. I mean, I'd love a superstar that could do everything, like an AJ Brown or somebody that's that big, strong, fast, can do everything. So yeah, if you can get a player like that, you're good. Doesn't mean you can't complete a forward pass, though. It's not like Miami's receivers are huge, but so it's one of those things where you'd rather have the best players possible that are available to you. If they don't happen to be the 6'4" jump ball winners, okay, we got to design something else. So it really puts the onus on Kingsbury and company to get those guys open, to scheme them open, because you're not going to have as many, maybe, 50-50 balls or YOLO balls or God forbid, Jay Gruden style fade routes every time you get inside the 10-yard line. So yeah, it limits you in certain ways, but it also should be exciting in others, right? The emphasis has already been yards after the catch. You want more of that, and presumably guys that are smaller and quicker could be capable of it.
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about this because I've never cared about needing a big wide receiver to go along with the guys that are a little more normal sized or 5'11", 6 foot, maybe even undersized by today's standards at some spots. But their tight end room is huge. And I wonder if that's their answer in a way, right? Like you think about what they've got right now at tight end. Ertz is 6'5". Ben Sinnott was way bigger than I thought. He's 6'4" and change. John Bates is 6'5". If you think Cole Turner's got a chance to make the roster if they keep four, he made a couple really athletic plays today. He's got a huge catch radius. Just doesn't block that well. But he's 6'6". Armani Rogers, who was on the team, if not for injury last year, is 6'5". So as much as you'd say they're wide receivers, it's a smaller group. Their tight ends are huge. And I wonder if that is part of the design when you've got to go up the ladder and make a contested catch or you're running a fade ball. Let's make the defense think we're going to bunch everything up in tight, jumbo look, 3 tight ends, whatever. And then maybe we can motion a Cole Turner or a Zach Ertz or send it out or something and run the fade or the back shoulder to them. There were a couple. The only real contested, like up the ladder balls I saw in practice today were in the middle of the field to tight ends. And maybe that's how you combat that.
That's a reasonable theory. I mean, again, I think if everyone had their druthers, they would have a bigger receiver as well, right? But you don't just do it for the sake of doing it. You don't just go get someone because they're 6'4" and they can't play. You know what I mean? Like there's a a trade-off there, certainly. But maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's how they solve that, right? If we don't have any big receivers that we like at the time or that weren't available to us, then this is kind of our solution to it. Your jump balls, you're close to the goal line, your box out type plays, and we'd rather have our tight ends doing that anyhow. There's something to that.
Monty says, speaking of tight ends, we really need a tight end to step up. Hopefully Cole Turner was just not being used correctly. It has become a weapon for Daniels. This offense will take off. Big X factor. I think that's fair. It's not going to be Turner if they have their way. I mean, they drafted Ben Sinnott to help in that area, and they signed Zach Ertz. I think Bates is – you want to find John Bates, look at the line of scrimmage. He's going to be blocking for the most part. But early on, if healthy, Ertz will get those chances, and if it doesn't work out, that's when you probably turn to Ben Sinnott. My guess is a guy like Cole Turner, maybe, if you could stash him, would be on the practice squad. And if something were to happen with Ertz, maybe he'd get a shot as the year went on.
In terms of Sinnott's a guy I'm fascinated by, because I'm not a huge believer in, as I keep calling it, the Ertz Renaissance, this like third act where he's dynamic again. I can't remember who it was. I apologize for not being able to attribute it properly. Somebody called him a catch and fall tight end, which is kind of what he was his last year while healthy in Arizona. That doesn't interest me all that much. If you're such a tremendous blocker that you can afford to have that as part of your, your sort of total delivery, okay, I can deal with it. But that's not what he's known for. He's a receiving tight end who blocks fine. I don't really want that. I mean, to me, so I thought Sinnott would have a path to be effective, whether it's as an H-back in certain plays or an inline tight end or kind of doing everything under the sun, that versatility. Because when you invoke Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle, which Adam Peters did, it's hard for me not to have some giddiness and excitement there about what his role might be as the season progresses.